Canadian Universities and Colleges Conclave Season 3 and Virtual Education Fair. So, of course, this season is all about Canadian education and skill development planning for Indian students and working professionals. And our session today is on undergrad, the undergrad studies. And we have a great panel for you all here today. So let me do a quick introduction about Canam and our panelists. So we at Canam have been pioneers in career counseling for students headed to Canada in the past 27 years. And Canam has been very special to Canada and a leader in promoting Canadian education. We have a large network of offices in 30+ locations across India and are members of major accrediting bodies throughout the international education sector worldwide. Our career counselors are highly experienced with decades of experience in recruitment processes, programs, admissions, and compliance. At Canam, we value a strong working relationship with our university partners, which is a huge benefit to our students. Anurag Sandhu, CEO of Canam, is an RCIC, that is Regulated Canadian Immigration Consultant, and thus licensed by the Government of Canada to provide guidance on study permits and immigration advice. We connect with over 2.5 lakh students and professionals each year to apply to university and college admissions around the world. Our free services include live interaction with delegates through webinars, visits, conclaves, in-office activities, the road shows, all kinds of events, in-person and virtual career counseling, admission services, visa guidance, getting application fee waivers where possible, providing scholarship options where possible, and interview preparation where it's needed. 97.2% of tens of thousands of students applying through Canam get accepted into their choice of programs in Canadian institutions each intake. We would like you to be one of our success stories as well. And how do we get it right at Canam? High quality personalized counseling by highly experienced counselors who are trained by universities, facilitating direct communication with universities and colleges through various events, like one of them, which is this, of course. Artificial intelligence-driven smart search technology for custom match of profile, eligibility, and field of interest developed over inputs from 10 million man-hours of counseling over 27 years, and perfected ISO-accredited application processing systems for over 27 years. And now for the session. The topic for today's session is undergrad study, degrees, pathways, diplomas. What are the right options for your profile? So our panelists for today are in alphabetical order: Andy Rayburn, International Admissions and Recruitment Officer at Carleton University. Andy has been with Carleton for over 20 years and thoroughly enjoys helping all international students. Now an admissions officer, Andy visits India twice annually and is a regular participant in Canam events. He has thorough knowledge of the Indian education system as well as all the major international curricula. Good to have you with us, Andy. Our next panelist is Ashley Dunlop, Director of Student Recruitment, Admissions and International Student Services at the University of Winnipeg. Ashley has worked both frontline and in strategic planning in the international education industry for more than a decade. She leads a team of 30+ employees, overseeing every aspect of the international student experience from application to convocation. She is a regulated international student immigration advisor, RISIA, and international student welfare has always been her priority. Great to have you with us, Ashley. Our next panelist is Dylan Holmson, AVP Operations and Executive Director, South Asia at Grok Global. A Canadian national, Dylan has over 10 years of experience supporting higher education student recruitment from across Asia with a particular focus towards North American universities and colleges. Originally from Winnipeg, Dylan has lived in New Delhi since late 2015. Great to have you with us, Dylan. Our next panelist is Fadi Toma, Director Marketing and Recruitment at Navitas, Fraser International College. Fadi Toma has been working in the international education field since 2011, holding a number of positions in student services, student recruitment, and marketing. Fadi has also been dedicated to international student advocacy on a provincial and national level as an executive member within the Manitoba Council for International Education. Fadi has been with Navitas Canada for the last 5 years and recently joined FIC as the Marketing and Recruitment Director. Great to have you with us, Fadi. Our next panelist is Shreya Podar, Regional Recruitment Advisor, South Asia at Toronto Metropolitan University. A psychologist by education and an international education specialist by profession, Shreya has over 10 years of varied work experience, including setting up and running up a company, to working for various edtech startups, helping students make career choices, to managing and strategizing outreach activities for international universities from USA, UK, Canada, and Australia in South Asia. Currently at Toronto Met, helping students with paving their way forward to fulfill their educational aspirations, which will help them take on the work in the future. Thank you for being with us, Shreya. Thomas Young, International Student Recruitment Officer at Grenfell campus of Memorial University of Newfoundland. Thomas Young is an International Student Recruitment Officer with Memorial University of Newfoundland. While he does recruit for both MUN's St. John's and Grenfell campuses, he's primarily based at the Grenfell campus in the city of Corner Brook, which specializes in environmental sustainability, fine arts, and also offers an option for students to study business without having completed maths in high school. Thank you for being with us today, Thomas. And with that, our panel discussion starts now. Don't forget to type in your question and WhatsApp number and the city that you're located in to chat admin in the chat box. I'd request all the audience to please keep your videos closed and audios on mute. If your question is absolutely unique and general, we will pick it up for one of the panelists to answer. If your query is specific to your case or profile, an expert Canam counselor closest to your location will contact you in the next 2 working days. And thank you for joining in the session. And now over to the panelists. Panelists, are you all ready? Okay, so many years after their high school graduation, 86 national school board toppers in India were tracked down by a national daily a couple of years ago as a part of a 4-month investigation. They found that the most common refrain of these toppers was, schools are stuck to textbook. They don't prepare us for challenges outside. Many toppers said they wish someone in school had briefed them better on options available post-school, loan programs, and helped them with choice of colleges and careers, in the absence of which many of them ended up majoring in conventional disciplines before discovering their real interest. Now, they hadn't heard of applied degrees or double majors or second degree or credit transfers or minor specializations or even conditional admissions into pathways into a university or area of their choice. Now, if both toppers feel like that, imagine the plight of the other students. Now, as you listen into today's panelists, you would realize that there are so many dimensions to consider, more so at the class 12th level. At Canam, our focus has always been student-centric counseling. Today, we bring to you this expert panel to give you insights into planning your career ahead. And keep the questions coming in to chat admin in the chat box along with your WhatsApp number. My first question goes to Shreya. Shreya, TMU is known to be academically non-traditional and more career-driven. How did TMU achieve this distinction? Students and parents are usually interested to know about the 2 outstanding experiences at TMU. 1, the Faculty of Science mentoring program, matching mentors with students. And 2, the fantastic opportunity for students to incorporate innovation and zone learning directly in their studies through coursework and a minor at the undergrad level. Will you tell us about both?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ganga, for having us today. And it's always wonderful to work with Canam. And thanks to all the students for tuning in on a Saturday morning. And listening to all of us and to hear what we all have to say about selecting Canada as a destination and what Canada has to offer. So quickly, before I get into the questions, a little bit about TMU. Toronto Metropolitan University was formerly known as Ryerson University. And we changed our name in April of last year. And that is the most important thing that I feel in this year that students have had to kind of get used to as well through the application process. The name has changed, but the essence of the university still stays the same. we are still focused on career ready education, and that is how we imbibe all of our curriculum also. It is 93% experiential learning based, and it's exactly the example that you gave, Ganga. It's really true to that, right? Because in India traditionally, and having studied through an Indian curriculum, I can definitely, vouch for that, is that we have studied in a very rote learning manner, and where it is very theory intensive. So when you are looking to study abroad, generally also depending on the country, in North American education curriculums in general, they are experiential learning based. And when we talk about experiential, it basically means you're just not, based off of your textbooks. You are getting a lot of hands-on learning experiences when how the curriculum is being taught through all the universities and the projects and the lab involvement that you do. So speaking to our Faculty of Science specifically, all of our classes are designed in a way that lab work is a very, very big component of your learning process. So you're not going to have to just rely on, reading your textbook and just going and answering a multiple choice on the basis of that. You are going to have to do an experiment. You are going to rationalize. You are going to have to give a paper on what you have done, what you have studied. And that's how the practicality and the applicability of the profession is kind of taught at the university. So hence we have like a peer mentoring program that we were talking about. Is for first year students. We do realize that you all have come from different countries, and that every country has a different way of teaching a curriculum and how it is being perceived. So when we have a peer mentoring program, and I always recommend it to students, is you need to fill that form, and we try to match you to the closest that we can. So if you fill it from the country, the region that you are in, what program you are in, so we try pairing you with a student as closely as possible. So it really is up to you how well you fill the form. So you would get a mentor that closely matched to you. So you have somebody to fall back on, and you are required to honor that mentoring, where you need to give in a certain number of hours every week, where you're sitting with that mentor, working through your classes. If you need some help with your, understanding your programs, or you want to understand how classes function, or how to present certain papers, what classes to select, that's the whole idea, to handhold you through your first year. So you're having a more easier experience to kind of become a part of the community at TMU. So that is the one thing that, when we talk about the peer mentoring program specifically, we involve all of those things as a part of it. And also the co-op program that we offer generally at TMU is a little different than a lot of other universities, where it is not embedded in the 4 years. It is optional, because the minimum duration of our co-op is 8 months, going up to 16 months. So usually, give or take, a student would land up doing it for a year. So it does increase graduation time. So instead of 4 years, you would graduate in 5 years. So we have left it optional, because there is a school of thought where students don't want to graduate later, because there'll be an instant comparison that, oh, in the UK it is 3 years, and now already it's 4 years, you're going to graduate later, and then 1 more year of internship. So we give you the liberty to decide if you want to do the co-op or not once you're on campus after the first year, and you can then choose to go ahead or not. So the downside, if you look at it, yes, you will graduate a year later. But if you do the co-op, firstly, you definitely get paid for it. And the second thing is that you're setting up a great network where you will have one foot into a door. Then that is, in terms of the statistics that we have, more than 50% of our students will get employed back by that company even before they graduate. So when you have a 3 years, stay back for work permit, at least you have a starting point. And then of course you can see where life takes you, and if you want to choose or change your program, you have that option to do so. So that is how our peer mentoring program in terms of science of Faculty of Science and for co-ops that works. And the next part of Ganga's question was zone learning, which is something that I personally think is really, really cool at the university. So we like to always call ourselves as a world of possibilities. So apart from offering you great education at TMU, there is so much more that is there. So I'm sure a lot of students tuning in right now have seen or heard of Shark Tank. So I think zone learning is the best comparison to that. It's just that it's at a university level. So it's a university-based seed incubator. And as a student, be it your first year, second year, whichever year, you can go and pitch your idea to a panel of investors. And the beauty of it is you can do it with just an idea. You just need to go in and pitch an idea for most of the zones. You don't need to have a framework, and you don't need to have your plans in place and forecasts, which is a little daunting as a freshman student to have. So you have that option to go and do so. And we have 10 different zones. So there's the digital media zone, which is ranked as one of the world's top university-based seed incubators. There is an innovation zone, there's a transmedia zone, there is a science zone, there's a fashion zone. So you just need to go pitch the idea, and it does not have to be from the area of your study. And that is the beauty of it. You don't need to study business to start a business. And if you're studying mechanical engineering, you can still have a business idea in the fashion zone. So, let your entrepreneurial side like kind of kick in and make the most of it, and you could potentially graduate with a business on your hands at the end of your 4 years or 5 years of your program. And that is where we kind of make sure that your experience at TMU is a holistic one, that you are able to do so much more than just getting great education when you graduate. You are career ready, and we make sure that we strive to do that. And lastly, to answer the minor question, which I think I can say comfortably on behalf of all my colleagues here, is that all of us do offer a major minor combination, and you do have that option to do a major minor at every university. And again, minors don't have to be from the faculty of your study. So if I am studying psychology and I have an interest in photography, for example, I can do a minor in photography, and you don't have to decide your minors while you're applying. You have the liberty to reach campus and then decide what it is that you would want to do in a minor. So yeah, that's I think my time, and I have covered your questions. Ganga, have I missed out anything?
No, not at all. Thank you so much, Shreya. And
Thank you.
let me move on to Fadi, who's Director of Marketing and Recruitment at FIC. At Canam, we come across hundreds of students who aspire to study at their dream university, but either their grades don't match up, or maybe they don't have maths in their year 12, or probably they want to start a program in May, which is really not a regular intake at universities. So enrolling for a university transfer program, or a UTP2 as it's called, at top universities for such students really comes as a godsend to improve their academic entry and outcomes. But the UTP pathway is most misunderstood by parents. Navitas has been a pioneer of running pathway programs in university campuses around the world. Would you like to talk something about the UTP pathway in Canada, and how does the pathway program leading to degrees help students to achieve success at their dream universities in Canada? And also, should students fear progression at the second year? To the second year, sorry.
Awesome. Thank you, Ganga. And hi, everybody. And hello to the panelists here as well. It's a big question, so I'll try to tackle it, Ganga, as best as I can. I'm going to break your question into, 3 parts, and we're going to talk about why choosing a pathway might be the right option for you, and what a pathway can offer you. So what can we offer? Well, if we look at it from a flexibility, a support, and a success standpoint. So let's start with flexibility. You touched upon it in your question there, and I like that you used the word godsend to some of these students. So flexibility, yes, we have flexible intakes. We have 3 intakes at Fraser International College. If you're familiar with our Navitas schools around Canada as well, you'll know that we have 3 intakes. So January, May, and September are the traditional intakes where we can take students. So yes, we do get a lot of students that don't meet or don't make it in time for that traditional intake that universities offer, and we can take them in between. It doesn't take away from their study time. It doesn't take away from their ultimate goal of graduating from our partner university, for example, from Simon Fraser University. It sets them on that path of success. So flexibility is really important. Flexibility, on the other hand, as well, comes in the form of what you can study. Now, your mom and dad, you may be sitting there talking to the kids. You want them to study something, or you start wanting to study a degree, which I certainly started in a faculty and end up changing. I won't say which faculty I started in, but flexibility for us comes in the form of programming as well. So yes, you can start and maybe you want to start in engineering, or maybe you want to start in business or computer science. But our advisors and the way our program is structured, it allows you flexibility to change, to take your courses to a different faculty, to build around what faculty you're studying now, but possible other faculties in the future. So the flexibility piece is really important in choosing when you want to start and in possibly changing your career path or what you want to study. The support piece, I think, is one of the most important aspects of the Navitas program, certainly one of the most important aspects of Fraser International College that our students find really important, not just in our one-year pathway program, but we see students come back to us over and over again because they build a community at FIC and certainly at our Navitas colleges. So what do we mean by supports? And supports for us, we really talk about wrap-around supports. We call them wrap-around supports. And as you have your academic life, but there are other things that happen outside of your academic life, especially in that first year that you're moving to a new country, you're moving to university life. I remember my first year transitioning from high school to university. It's not always easy or simple. And what our wraparound supports are there for are to help you academically through student advising. We have a peer education program. These are former students that have taken the same course that you're taking now, that have received an A in the course and can help you with the course. We also have student experience teams that help you outside of the classroom. They get you to build that community that we feel is really important to your success. Academic success is really important, but also building a community that you can rely on, whether that's friends, but also a professional community through volunteering, through working, through various areas. Finding your passion. Maybe you love to play piano. Finding, a group that plays piano, for example, that builds that academic success and really gets you to be successful. So the support is a really important piece and goes hand in hand with the flexibility. The third one is success. At FIC and all our Navitas colleges in Canada, we're partnered with really high-end universities. So Simon Fraser University is really well known around the world. We are the #1 comprehensive university in Canada. We're not just well known academically. Employers know SFU as well. They know how rigorous SFU is. They know it's a premium university, and they know that students that are going to SFU tend to be strong and ready for the job market. So the FIC pathway really offers that success early on. We allow our students to do volunteering programs. We have student leadership teams. One of the student leadership teams actually handles marketing. So they work with the marketing and recruitment team early on. So all of these build your resume. As a student coming to Canada, the first thing that you're thinking about, and for the 490 students on this call and parents, you're probably thinking about academics. What am I going into? Will I be successful? Will the school have the programming for me? Will it have the intake? Are my grades good enough? But one thing that's really important in Canadian education as well is getting you job ready. And you need to start thinking about being job ready early on from that first year. A lot of Canadian students here have built volunteering hours through their high school programs. They have been already in the workplace. So for our students at Fraser International College, we try to give you as much support in that first year to build your resume. Yes, academics is really important, but you need a really solid resume to back that up as well. And we know when you move to SFU, there's really strong co-op programs. We have co-op in every faculty. But that resume that you build starting year one through volunteering, look, you're interested in marketing, you can work with the marketing director for a term and learn about the world of marketing and put that on your resume. So these things are really important. So for the parents listening, it's really flexibility, the support and the success that we offer our students. So pathway programs traditionally, and the word pathway may seem to students like you're not good enough to get into the university. But Fraser International College, our pathway into Simon Fraser University, is really offering things outside of just academics. We're really providing you flexibility to enter SFU, but we're really trying to give you all the wraparound services that will help you in year 2, 3, and 4 as you transition through your Canadian university life and end up in the job market afterwards. So I think that's, Ganga, if they take anything away from me today, flexibility, support, and success is what we're after.
Thank you, Fadi. My next question is to Dylan. Now, Dylan, as a recruitment specialist who travels around the world speaking to university faculty, admission teams, high achieving year 12 students, their parents, what kind of students would be the right fit for studying at a very high ranking universities like Simon Fraser University, University of Waterloo, University of Ottawa? Now, if a top ranking university is their dream university, should they also have a backup plan by applying to other universities? And also, what are the challenges they would face as undergrad students during these 4 years, and how best should they be prepared to face these challenges?
Great, thanks, Ganga. Pleasure to be here, and hello to everyone. Look, I think one of the key things to draw a similarity to is that the most sought after universities in Canada, it's similar to sought out universities in India. They get very high volumes of applications. It becomes very competitive to meet the admissions criteria to enter. So if a student is looking to get into one of the like top ranked universities in Canada, whichever ranking system you're looking at, or just a very in-demand university, the key here is really going to be the academics to get in. It is very competitive. You have to obviously, of course, make sure that you're meeting the language requirements, but it really is your year 12 classes that become that competitive admission. Now, depending on the university or even the faculty within that university, there may be supplementary applications, like other components that are considered. So I know, Waterloo, for example, similar programs, there is an interview component. SFU's BD School of Business also has a supplementary application, where again, you're looking for other components, not just pure academics, but even still, you still have to be a very strong academic student to be admitted, even with these supplementary applications, to ensure that you're successful and just given the volume. So if you're a student looking at these types of institutions, one thing I'd always kind of recommend is go on that university's website and search for their admission averages. What this will do is usually give you a rough idea of what the competitive cutoff was for the previous intake, or what they're anticipating it to be for that coming fall. It's not a clear cut. If it says you need to have a 97%, it doesn't mean that everyone with 97% is going to get in, but it'll help you just kind of understand perhaps maybe some of your chances. As you mentioned, you might want to be looking at a backup. But the other thing to consider is with the universities, a lot of faculty sometimes have different admission averages for that particular faculty. So if it's an incredibly sought after major within that program, it might have a higher admission average than another program. And I think one of the great things about education in Canada at all of our universities is that flexibility that our past panelists have already talked about, is that you can start in one faculty, take courses, and then discover maybe your passion lies somewhere else, and maybe you might change or pivot. So it can be a lot of pressure in that application process. So it isn't the be all end all of, if I didn't get my exact faculty at my exact university, look for the options and what that institution can provide you and make that decision. So yeah, when it comes to regarding backups, I think, Fadi just spoke really well about the pathway option. It's a great way to lead into, Simon Fraser or their other NABClass pathways, but there are a variety of options for students looking to start in an environment that's best suited for them. And I think that is the key goal here, is if you're investing, your time and finances into your degree, that it's important that you feel supported wherever you are, and that you're making the best opportunity of that institution and that degree. So to touch on a little bit about I think the last part of your question, Ganga, was on challenges that might be faced. I think this isn't just whether you're in, whatever institution you come to study, but it can be really hard to manage expectations and also just kind of keep up with the work. I would say, you know, from my own personal experience, when I studied, I took a full course load in my very first semester. So I was like 5 subjects. As well, I was working part-time. And I also wanted to do, you know, student groups and activities, and it all became a bit much. So in further semesters, you know, I reduced from like 5 classes to 4 classes, and then I picked some up in the summer, so I could still kind of graduate, you know, in that 4-year timeline if I wanted to. I decided to go a little bit longer, but you know, again, it's just that opportunity of exploring. And I think my advice for those challenges is particularly in that very first semester. If you know, if you don't need to seek out part-time work, I would say really just use that first semester, focus on getting used to the academic system, getting used to, you know, midterms and projects at course load, but also you want to explore. So enjoy, you know, find student clubs. That'd be a great way to make friends, build up your network, and that will also help you identify other passions you might have. Now, Shreya spoke to doing a photography minor. Well, you might not figure that out until you use one of your electives in that subject. So in that first year, and definitely in that first semester, I think the best way to help face challenges is not overdo it, get involved in academics. And if you can leave maybe the work on the side until future semester, until you're a bit more settled, I think that's a great way to go about it. And whether it's, you know, support from a pathway or at, you know, one of the universities that our other panelists will speak to, I think there are student services at the universities. Go talk to your counselors. If you don't understand something in a class, go to your professor's office hours and, you know, discuss it further, and just kind of always keep on top of your work and don't let it kind of fall behind. And then I think you'll be in a really good position to be successful during the course of your degree.
Thank you, Dylan. Our next panelist is Andy. Now, Andy, surveys of employers have found that while recruiting, they're not just looking for narrow technical skills. They actually look for a broader set of skills and capabilities, including the ability to solve complex problems and the adaptability to change, with skills like cognitive flexibility, communication, leadership, and teamwork. That's what employers are looking for. Now, how do degree programs at traditional Canadian universities like Carleton provide students with these skills and opportunities to prepare for a successful career? Now, what are Carleton's flagship bachelor's degrees? Do they include experiential learning in their curriculum? And secondly, parents usually want to know about the advantages of studying an undergrad Canadian qualification over a postgraduate program in Canada. Carleton University is very popular for undergrad study with Indian students, especially with the huge scholarship it offers. So can you please list out the advantages of studying at the undergrad level in Canada?
Oh, great. I'm happy to answer those questions. Well, first of all, when it comes to traditional Canadian universities, whether it be Carleton or University of Winnipeg or Toronto Met or SFU or any of these publicly funded institutions, you're going to find that co-op is available. Now, co-op has been discussed earlier in this session, and it is something that Canada stands out for. It's something that makes Canadian education unique, and we're very, very proud of that. If you compare the opportunities to do co-op in other parts of the world, you will not find it as plentiful as you will at Canadian institutions. And it is a massive advantage for Canadian institutions as well. So to give you a sense for any of you who are watching who may be unfamiliar with what co-op is, it is truly experiential learning. You're going to be immersed in the field associated with your area of study. If you're doing engineering, you'll be working alongside professional engineers on a full-time basis. You're not doing an internship like, for example, our American cousins to the south. You're actually working full-time, 40 hours a week. So if you think of it from an employer's point of view, if you have somebody in your company and they're working full-time, 40 hours a week, they're not doing data entry. They're not delivering the mail or making coffee. They are truly doing what professionals do, and they're getting paid very, very well for their work as well. And this is a major advantage for Canadian institutions. You'll find co-op available throughout Canada, Memorial on the East Coast and UBC on the West Coast and everywhere in between. Most institutions in Canada offer some form of co-op and experiential learning. For example, at Carleton, we have over 150 different degree programs that have experiential learning and co-op. That's over 85% of our degrees. So that's pretty significant. And within our flagship programs, such as engineering, computer science, information technology, business, journalism, communication, media studies, these programs all have experiential learning. In fact, Ottawa is based in the capital city. Carleton is in the capital city of Ottawa. And so that is also the heart of government. So we have a lot of programs tied to government positions, but we also are it's the heart of the high-tech sector within Canada. So you could say that Ottawa is both the Delhi and the Bangalore of Canada. And that means that Carleton is able to establish close connections with the industry here in Ottawa, allowing for that experiential learning to take place for all students, international or otherwise. So that is certainly going to prepare students for a successful career, and it's also going to help them to finance their education, and it will also help them to usually achieve higher grades because they are able to better understand the concepts that are being taught in the classroom. And this will not only help them get their career established through co-op, but it will also open up other opportunities for them down the road, including at the postgraduate level. Once they have that ability to have their career established, when they're submitting their letters of intent for a master's or a PhD program, they're going to be able to really be nuanced in how they're explaining why they want to pursue a particular field. And the co-op experience will really enhance that. Not only that, but pursuing an undergraduate degree in Canada makes a lot of sense because, well, it's often used as a pathway towards immigration in Canada as well. And if a student is able to immigrate to Canada through studying in Canada and also getting that real world, real life work experience, and then subsequently pursuing the 3-year post-graduation work permit, well, it's really going to be advantageous to them when they are applying for permanent residency down the road. And with permanent residency comes domestic tuition fees, which would make any post-secondary studies much more affordable than it would as an international student. So that's another consideration. I think I covered all of your questions, Ganga. Did I miss anything there?
No, that's it. Thank you so much, Randy.
My pleasure.
Now, my next question is for Ashley. Ashley, supportive small size classes, caring professors, a welcoming community, a high school, undergrad degree, and postgrad diplomas. Now, University of Winnipeg has it all. Deciding on what program is right for you can be a difficult decision, especially when it comes to tuition and living costs as well. Now, many Indian students choose to study a rare offering that University of Winnipeg offers, a 3-year degree. Most of them are surprised when our counselors give them that option. Now, can you elaborate on how University of Winnipeg is able to offer 3-year degrees? How do students benefit? And would employers discriminate between a 3-year or a 4-year bachelor's degree? And also, what is the importance of choosing a suitable program and working with an agency or counselor who can help you identify an appropriate program to suit your abilities and goals? Can you also please address the complications that can arise from selecting a program that does not match a student's short-term and long-term goals? A lot of questions.
Yes, thank you. Hi again, guys. I saw Fadi smiling. We're long-term colleagues here, and I often talk about complications that arise from students who've selected the wrong program. So I'm happy, though, to be here today representing the University of Winnipeg, and especially to talk about undergraduate studies. I think, as you know, as students who've followed or engaged with Canam know, Canada offers many, many different options and different levels. And Fadi was able to speak about some of the great pathway options, and we've heard about some of the other universities. And one thing that's great about Canada is that all of our public universities and the pathways that lead into them, they are of a very high quality. You know, these are government accredited institutions. And so I think that everybody here in the audience has done a good first step by looking at Canada, coming to a Study in Canada webinar, because we know when we look at Toronto Metropolitan University, Carleton University, Memorial, Winnipeg. These are institutions that have the Canadian government stamp of approval and really, go on that high reputation of learning that Canada has. That being said, there is still a lot of decision making that students need to do, and a lot of research that's on them. And so you're sort of mentioning the importance of choosing a suitable program to suit their abilities. And the focus of this one today, I know we have is mostly universities on the panelists, or pathways leading into universities. Canada also, as we know, does have a really robust public college system here in Ontario, in Manitoba. And so there are great opportunities for students that can match whatever goal, whatever background, and whatever education ability they have, and so I think that it's really important for families and students to be honest with themselves and have some conversations about why am I going to Canada? What kind of career do I want? What are my long-term goals? Is my long-term goal just to get to Canada? Is my long-term and to, do a program and start settling there, which I think is a great goal for everyone, and for many international students. That is part of absolutely the long-term plan, but then also for your future, what are your goals? And different types of programs lead to different places. And Canada is still a place where a university degree, having a minimum of a bachelor's degree, still does mean something. If families do their research and they're looking, you can do their own research, go onto some career websites, look at what kind of credentials are required for certain careers that you may have in your mind. And you are going to see that a lot of those still will be university degree required, minimum of a bachelor's degree. So depending on your long-term goals and where you want to get, knowing that credentials are important is part of the research that starts now in high school, in class 12, when talking with a Canam counselor, when looking at what choice you're going to make for this huge investment of money and time and effort and great times, hard times that you're going to put yourself by being an international student. Some of the things that I see, I think, are when students or families are not clear on their goals from the beginning, and so they sign up for something and they commit to something, and then something along that way, the goals change, or the plan changes, or the program changes. And one thing to share with students is that it's not easy. Being an international student and studying in Canada is a great opportunity. But I'm sure studying a bachelor's degree in India, studying at a college in India is not easy. Studying class 12, writing your CBSE exams is not easy, right? And so you're coming as a student to study, to meet academic requirements, to get that credential, because otherwise the credential doesn't mean anything. If it was easy, if it was about just paying and booking an airplane ticket, then, that credential wouldn't have the value. So where I see problems is sometimes when students change their plan because they think that there's a shortcut, and then they kind of go a bit off course, thinking, oh, actually, if I do, 4 months, I can start working, I can do this. And I always say, go back to that original plan. What are your long-term goals? What do you want to do after graduation? I know you have some other great sessions here on, post-graduation work permit opportunities, and sort of all of these things are all tied together. So starting right now at the career counseling high school part, all of those pieces will fit together when you have a good understanding of that. So the other part, we were talking about degrees and credentials. So University of Winnipeg is a bit unique. In our province of Manitoba, we do offer 3-year bachelor's degrees. And so they're not available in every single program, but what it is, so a student will study a common 3-year pathway that is common to our 3-year and our 4-year diplomas, but they are able to have an exit point after their 3 years. The faculty where I think it's easiest to explain this is when we look at our Faculty of Business and our BBA degrees. So at the University of Winnipeg, we offer a general 3-year BBA, Bachelor of Business Administration degree that students can take. So in the first 3 years, it's general, learning about business, getting a bit more specialized. And then after 3 years, they can graduate general 3-year BBA. We also offer the option of a 4th year on top of that, where students are going to add their specialization. So then that's where they're going to be bringing in those specialized courses in accounting or in marketing or human resources or international business to add the specialization. This goes back to the importance of planning and knowing the outcomes. So for example, some careers, to be a CPA, to be an accountant, you have to do a 4-year degree, And so if students sort of know what their career goals are, that choosing that 3-year, that 4-year option can be really helpful for them. What we usually see, so the 3-year BBA is a really good pathway to employment. So if students want to graduate and then begin their careers in a job that requires a university education, they've got that minimum credential. The 4th year is required if students want to go on to do higher studies. So if they want to do a master's degree, the 4th year is very important, where they do more research, more specialization. And so it really depends on the long-term goals. The nice thing that we see, as I mentioned, the 3-year degree is very, very popular. And when students choose that exit point, they always have the option in the future, if their goals change, of coming back and upgrading to that 4-year degree. So it just adds a little bit more flexibility for students in terms of their outcomes. Another area where it's really popular is applied computer science program. So the 3-year exit point, I see lots of students exiting at that point to get a job, programmer, database developer, really career focused. And I see the students doing the 4th year when they want to go on and do a master's in computer science. They're really excited about the theory and the research and sort of the field of knowledge and AI and those sort of things. So a lot of different options depending on what the students are looking for.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thanks.
And my next question is to Thomas. A major chunk of students who wish to apply to a university always come to us saying, we don't know how to start. How do we know who to contact at the university if we have a specific question? And at Canam, we facilitate all means of communication between the student and the universities through office visits, activity-specific webinars at each stage of admissions and the tuition fee payment, in-person admissions workshops, emails, and all of that. Now, Thomas, what's your experience in this area, and what would you like to tell students about this? Also, what kind of research should students do before selecting a university that's right for them? And what are the 2 outstanding reasons that make Indian students choose Memorial University of Newfoundland?
Awesome. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me here today, and thank you to the other panelists as well for joining, and for those of you who've given Mon a bit of a shout out. Thank you so much for that. So I guess just starting with the first question, I'm a huge believer in transparency and kind of doing what's best for students. And in this day and age, it's very, very, very difficult to do that. There are thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of agents on the ground in India who maybe don't necessarily have the best intentions of students in mind. I mean, I was in India a few years ago, and there's signs saying, come do IELTS test center, guaranteed visa in Canada, guaranteed this, guaranteed that. And it's a kind of a bit of an assault on students, quite frankly. That said, Canam has been a huge support for Memorial University over the last 10 years. I've only been a recruiter for about 3 of those. So your relationship with recruitment at Memorial actually predates mine. And this isn't just me paying lip service to Canam. I genuinely, I adore the work that Canam does. Very, very student focused. It's not like, some of these other agents you see out there who are very profit driven or very, focused on just kind of pumping out students as quickly as possible. When you meet with a Canam agent, you are getting a service that is kind of tailored to you. Like Ganga mentioned, you are getting that one-to-one counseling, you're getting career services, you're getting visa service, you're getting all these little things that collectively are going to kind of, kickstart your journey into post-secondary education in Canada. And it's all done with your best interest in mind. It is not a profit-driven counseling service, which is a very, very important distinction between Canam and other, other similar, I won't say similar services, but similar types of services that, just don't have that same kind of focal point. In terms of how you should kind of, begin the process, of course, because Canam does facilitate all of the communications with universities. Personally, I would recommend, beginning with Canam. You can certainly reach out to the university directly, but if you're, like many people in class 12 or even class 10 or class 11, and you don't really know where to go, maybe you've got 5, 6, 20 schools on your mind that, you're kind of interested in. I always recommend going to Canam first, and they can kind of take, this big grand idea that you might have about, studying in Canada, and they can shrink it down and really hyper focus your plan and help you get that study plan in place. Now, whether you're studying, whether you're planning on communicating with the university directly or with Canam, I do recommend that you, kind of figure out what specific questions you want to ask before you reach out. I get, a dozen emails a day that just say, "Dear sir, I would like help, please. Thank you. Name." It's best not to send that sort of email. It is best to make sure that, you don't need to know everything that you want to get from this whole process. But at the very least, have at least 1 or 2 specific questions in your email that kind of identify, what it is you're trying to get. And on top of that, you also want to include some identifying information for yourself, such as your name, the city you're coming from. Over in the chat, I'm not sure where it is on your screen. It's over here on mine. But the Canam counselors have said, in your question, please indicate your name, your city, and your phone number. That's really, really, really important, because when we're trying to answer, or when Canam is trying to answer, it really helps us kind of give more specific information that will be tailored to what you need, and then we can kind of give you a little bit more direct information. That said, looking at some of the research you should do before sending these inquiries. Like I said, you don't need to have everything figured out, but just a general idea. So I believe Ashley mentioned a little bit about this a few minutes ago. Just knowing the types of programs that are available. Are you looking for a diploma program that's only 2 years? Are you looking for a degree program? What's the difference between those things? Again, you don't need to be an expert on all those distinctions, but have kind of an idea of how long you want to spend in school. What are the long-term goals of this degree program? Do you want to remain in Canada after you finish? Is my end goal a master's of business administration or a master's of engineering? If it is, okay, what are the prerequisites to get into those types of programs? Just kind of figuring those sorts of things out. And that's kind of the Canam advantage, right? Like that's, where they can kind of do a little bit of career counseling, a little bit of academic counseling, and give you a bit more of a direction for that. And even, like I get students all the time who say, well, I really like history, but also I kind of want to be an engineer. But my mom also says I should study medicine, but also my dad says I should be an actor, but also I really like to paint and I like to ride horses. So what do you recommend for me? We get these students who, they have like maybe 30 different ideas of what they want to do as a major. That's fine. You don't need to be an expert and know exactly where you are going to be on June 23rd of 2062. You need to know just a general idea. And even if you don't have, say like 2 or 3 majors, if you've got 5 majors in mind, still bring that to the table, because again, between the universities and Canam, we can shrink that down and kind of stabilize your career planning. Speaking from my own experience, I did the history program through Memorial University. I changed my major, either my major or my minor. I believe I looked it up the other day. I think it was 6 times in my first year and a half. I bounced between English, French. I think I was in religious studies for a minute there. I genuinely don't even remember being in religious studies, but apparently that was on my paper at some point. Even if you go through and you apply and you haven't picked a major by the end of your first year, there's usually in unless you're in a very, very structured program, a lot of schools do have a little bit of flexibility there. And that's kind of one of the advantages with MUN specifically, is that we do offer a lot of flexibility, and it's very, very easy to kind of change between programs. I think the last section of the question there, Ganga, was 2 reasons to study at MUN specifically. For us, right now, we do offer one of the lowest tuition rates in the country. Typically, you will find that schools on the East Coast, many of us are kind of in the lower bracket in terms of tuition costs, while still maintaining high rankings. Now, I use the word ranking in kind of quotation marks because Canada doesn't really have a formal ranking system in place the way that many other countries do. We do have some informal things. We have Maclean's Magazine. We have a few international bodies and things like that. But there's no formalized ranking system specific to Canada. So if you come to a school in the eastern provinces, so the Atlantic provinces of Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Newfoundland, PEI, many of these schools do have fairly low tuition relative to the rest of the country. Right now, ours is sitting at about $20,800 per year, plus a 4% annual increase. Factoring in your living expenses, your tuition, your meals, your accommodations, your books, your supplies, your health insurance, everything all together, typically we're recommending an annual budget of between $30,000 and about $38,000, depending on the program that you're looking to study in. If you do the math on the website, it actually comes out a little bit lower than that. I believe it comes out to about $28,000 to $32,000. But like I said a few minutes ago, transparency is really, really, really important to me, and I think that it's a good idea when regardless of what a university tells you for a budget, always budget for a little bit more than that, because it gives you a little bit of extra wiggle room for for recreation, for emergencies. Maybe you have to return home for a semester, maybe you have a family emergency, something like that. Maybe a global pandemic happens and shuts down the world for 3 years. You never know what could go, what could happen when you're abroad. So always try to budget for a little bit more if you can. The other big advantage that we have at Memorial University is that we are a very, very small institution relative to some of the other schools in Canada. So we do have small class sizes as well. So right now, our student to faculty ratio is 17:1. So for every 1 student, we have 17 faculty members who they'll be responding to. You will find that your first year classes are going to be a bit bigger than maybe some of the other classes. Typically at the St. John's campus, first year, you're looking at 100 students to a class, whereas labs, you're probably looking at 30 to 50. At the Grenfell campus, that number is much lower. The cap for first year classes is around 60 or 70 for psychology, and then 30 for most other classes. And then once you get to your second year, you're looking at maybe 15 to 20 students. Third year, you're looking at maybe 10 to 15 students. And then speaking from experience, my smallest class was a second year history course. We had 4 kids in our class. So I got to know my professors really well. But more importantly than that, we got to know, we got to know our classmates really well, but more importantly than that, we got to know the professor really, really well. So we were on a first name basis with him. All of us regularly got invited to his home for different, historical studies meetings and meals and things like that. And to this day, I still use him as a reference on my resume. I used him as a reference to get into grad school. I used him as a reference when I applied for this job. And yeah, I still maintain a really strong relationship with that professor to this day.
Thank you, Thomas. Now for questions from the audience. There's one question for Ashley. I think it says, at the University of Winnipeg, are the kinesiology and applied health programs available for international students?
Hi, thanks, Ganga. Yes, thank you for your question, whoever asked that one. Our kinesiology and applied health programs are open to international students. We accept international students into our faculties of business, arts, like liberal arts and social sciences, to the kinesiology and applied health, and also to our faculty of business. Kinesiology and applied health, kinesiology in Canada is a really growing field. I think a lot of students will find that the outcomes for careers are quite good, with a lot of options for students who are looking at working in physical activity, in rehabilitation, in working with aging populations. And so, Ganga, you mentioned at the very beginning intro, I think, some of these emerging fields that are coming, and kinesiology absolutely is one of them, especially looking at like shifting demographics and things. So thank you for the question.
Thanks. There's another question, says, is it the right choice to settle down as a high school teacher after finishing studies? And what should I study in Canada to become a high school teacher?
So
I can actually, oh, sorry, go ahead. Please go ahead.
I was just going to say, we don't have the program, so all yours, Andy, you can go ahead.
Well, nor does Carlton, but I was just going to share my own perspective, because when I was finishing high school, I was, my plan at the time was to actually become a high school teacher. And I learned at the time, I first needed to go to Teachers College, and there's a variety of institutions in Canada that offer Teachers College. Sometimes it is offered concurrently, so it's as you're doing your undergraduate degree, and sometimes it's offered consecutively, so it would follow your undergraduate degree. I also learned at the time, and it's always worth doing your own independent research, mind you, but at the time I learned that I needed to have 2 teachables if I'm going to be teaching high school. So that means I needed to have a variety of specializations. So my plan was to do English and history, because that's where my passions lay at the time. So if anyone else has Teachers College, so they can actually interject here, feel free. But from my own experience of aspiring to be a teacher, I did learn that I needed to have 2 teachables. So 2 subjects, 2 high school subjects, I would have the option of teaching. I hope that helps.
I would just add a bit to that. And Thomas, if you have the program, I will give you the floor quickly, but this is an example where the research is really important. So University of Winnipeg, we do have a faculty of education. It's not open to international students because teaching in Canada, it's regulated by each province, and you have to be certified to become a teacher. So in Manitoba, the province where Winnipeg is located, international students, international citizens cannot be certified as teachers. And so we don't offer the program because it doesn't lead to an outcome. So it's another example of really good, really important to do your research and hope that your agent and your institution has your back. And they're not letting you do a program that actually won't lead somewhere.
Sorry, just kind of echoing off of that. So it's funny that Andy said, history and English, because I am in the exact same boat. When I came out of high school, I was like, okay, I'm going to do an English major, a history minor, and I'm going to teach in the high school system, because of course you needed the 2 teachables. And then I got into it and I realized, I'm not a big fan of teaching in primary and junior high. So I ended up going for post-secondary education. But in any case, yeah, like you said, teaching is heavily regulated. I see a lot of inquiries from students who, maybe have an education degree in India or, in other countries as well. And they come to Canada thinking like, oh, I'm just going to do a master's and I'm just going to teach, in high schools here. But because of the regulation process, you can't really do that in a lot of cases. My wife is living proof of that. She did an education degree in Colombia. She's not eligible to teach in high schools here because, she didn't do that necessary first stage of the process. With us, we do have an education program, but it is, I believe I can't remember if it was Andy that said this certified. It was someone mentioned, the possibility of doing, either concurrently or after. Ours are always after. You need to do your undergraduate degree first, and then you transition into education after. And then even if you do become a teacher, and this is something that we find with a lot of domestic students, because of the provincial regulation, you may need to do additional courses if you want to move between provinces. So, for example, if you do the education program in Newfoundland, you may have to teach in Newfoundland. You wouldn't necessarily be able to take that to, say, Alberta without going through the licensing process or the registration process in Alberta, which in some cases may involve doing additional courses. So you might do an education degree in one province, decide, okay, I'm going to move to another, and then have to, do another portion of another education degree just to be able to practice in your field.
Thank you. Thanks, Thomas. Now, there are a lot of questions coming in. So I think one of them is saying that I've heard a lot about majors and minors. What exactly is this concept of choosing a major and minors in bachelor's degree, and does it help towards better employability?
It's a great question. So the best way to put it is you have to take certain number of electives when you are doing your program at any university. Electives is classes across different faculties, and they could be across various faculties. So you can have an option to do a science class, a design class, a business class. When you are choosing to do a minor, you're dedicating those credits. So for example, at TMU, we have 6 classes, which is 6 credits that you are dedicating towards a minor. It is not going to help you in terms of employment. The best way to look at a minor is getting more information about a subject or something, or learning a little bit more. So let's say, like I gave an example about being passionate about photography, for example, you just get to learn a little bit more about that field, which is going to help you gain more personal experience. That is a value add to your profile, that you have a little bit more experience if you're applying to a job within that sector or within that criteria, but it is not going to be the deciding factor of you landing a great job, because it will still land, it will be based on your major programs. So let's say you took a business major and you did a minor in marketing. That is complementing to each other, and then you apply for a job on that basis. So yes, that's complementing. But if you did a minor which is not complementing your major program and just for personal value adding, then it's perceived differently. So it really is your choice how you choose to take it. But I think the best way to look at a minor is just wanting to learn a little bit more about a program or a subject for your personal experience.
Okay. The next question is, why do Canadian universities not offer credit transfers directly from my second year into a third year of the engineering or a computer science degree?
I can weigh in on that one from a MUN perspective. So the thing with that question is that is going to depend on the institution. Every institution is going to have their own individual policy around transfer credits. Speaking from MUN specifically, for computer science, we actually do accept transfer credits into our CS program, but all of our transfer credits, regardless of which program you're coming into, are offered on a course-by-course basis. So after you've been accepted, we look at your the individual course syllabus of every course you've completed to date, and what we do is we check to see what the closest equivalent at our school is, and then we give you credit based on that. Engineering, however, we don't generally accept credit transfers, and it says as much on our engineering website. The reason for that is because our engineering program is much more structured than our other general admission programs. So the way that it functions is that you have to do certain courses at certain times, and they have to be done in a specific order. And if you miss a course, if you fail a course, it can be very, very difficult to go back and repeat that because it's offered on a particular cycle. If we, basically because of that, we can't offer transfer credits because it desyncs you from your classmates, and it can make it very, very difficult to graduate on time or in the, to complete your courses in the correct order.
Also, just to add on what Thomas said, is the reason we don't do pre-assessment is because we have students applying from multiple countries, right? And the curriculum for each country, for each program is going to be different. And there is no standardization to the curriculum mapping. And it's a lot of work to map curriculums. So we need to be sure that you are coming to the university where we are then going through your profile to your specific case-by-case basis, and then letting you know how many credits will transfer. So hence the pre-assessment will not happen. So we always encourage that you make your application, and then once you have accepted your offers, then that's the best way, because we have an assurity that you are considering the university with the amount of work that we are putting in as well for mapping your curriculums and letting you know how many credits to get transferred. So that, and with engineering, it's the same. It is usually not going to happen at all, because like he said, it's very structured with prerequisites of every program and every course. So mostly you're not going to get credit transfer for engineering programs. Rest, everything else is fair game. So you can look at that.
Okay. I'm combining a couple of questions on co-ops. One of the students says, are co-ops also available for international students? And then there's the other question which says that you talked so much about co-ops. Can students really earn enough to take care of their tuition fees? And another question says that if co-op is really good, now that does it mean that programs without co-op should not be chosen to study?
Yeah, I'll take your first question, Ganga, just on co-ops and international students, and I'll try to combine your questions into an answer. So yes, co-ops at SFU are available to international students. You begin thinking of your co-op program as you leave the FIC pathway and enter into SFU, right into that second year. Each faculty has a co-op coordinator or co-op office. So the idea is that the university works with local, international, national businesses, government, so on, offices, to try to find jobs in the field within that faculty. And then it's kind of like a matchmaking service. So students apply to the co-op program. They bring in their resumes, they apply, they get coached on interviews, how to write a resume, what job life in Canada is like. And then they get matched with different employers where they would go through an interview process and get chosen. So it's definitely available to international students. At SFU, it's open in all faculties. So I can't speak to faculties that don't have co-op versus ones that have co-op, but we certainly have co-op everywhere. And we really think it's a really good, it's something that's very important for students to do. And it's something that's very important for students to do just more than one term. So you should do more than one term with different employers so you can get an idea of what jobs in your field look like, just not from one employer perspective, but from different employers. And I think Ashley is unmuted, so I'm going to pass it on to University of Winnipeg.
Thanks, Patty. So co-op is such a big buzzword, co-op, co-op, co-op. I offer co-op, you offer co-op, there's co-op everywhere. And co-op is an awesome and a really great opportunity. And I don't have anything bad to say about co-op at all. I do think sometimes though, students get a little bit too focused on co-op. A few of us talked about other things, work integrated learning, things like being a research assistant, being a lab assistant, working with the professor on their paper. Sometimes this idea of co-op is so prevalent that students are being too narrow and missing out on all of the other opportunities available. If you are a psychology major, probably your best experience is going to be trying to get a position working with one of your professors in their labs and helping them on some of their experiments. If you are, you know, English major, English literature major, you're probably going to have some of your best experiences being a teaching assistant in your courses. And so co-op is fantastic and really does provide that job experience, but there's also a lot of jobs on campus and within the university infrastructure that students sometimes sort of forget about that are actually a bit more related. In terms of earning, I think that's a good question too. I think the first question was, can I earn enough on co-op to sustain myself throughout my studies? And no, you can't. You know, students should not, you know, focus on that as their primary financial plan, which I think will get is really a part of this whole discussion. Co-op is a great opportunity to earn a very good salary, you know, for 4 months at 40 hours a week. But the job that I have, you know, with, you know, 10 years of experience in this field, graduating more than 20 years ago, I cannot earn enough money in 40 hours a week for a 3-month co-op term to pay for myself to go to university. You know, so families and students do have to be realistic about what the costs are, and know that this is a great way to supplement income. This is a great way, especially cover some living expenses, but you also have to have a financial plan that is realistic from the get-go, because you can't support yourself just by working and pay your tuition, no matter where you're doing co-op.
Yeah, thanks. In fact, I just got a question saying, what is this co-op? So, Dylan, would you like to say something on what co-op is?
Oh yeah, sure. Just I think to kind of add on that our last few people talked about, the idea of co-op is to do a 4 or 8 month work placement that's associated through your university. So the idea is that employers are partnering with the faculty at that university to offer jobs that are designed for university students who have not quite yet graduated, but to come in and learn about the company, get that practical experience. So then after graduation, whether they're looking to maybe go back to that company and work full-time as kind of like a graduate recruitment plan, or just have that experience and move elsewhere. So it's really about supplementing your academic learning classes through practical hands-on experience, which is why I think Ashley, mentioned that co-op is one avenue, but there's research assistant, partnerships, lab assistant, that maybe you're planning to go and do your master's in research, where that type of experience would probably be more applicable to your longer term plan. But it's really just about supplementing your academic learning through practical learning.
Is this the question, just one second, Shreya. So the question, if there is no co-op, that program is not so good. Would I like to answer that?
Sure. I mean, I'll give my perspective on it. Like, thing I would say is co-op is no, I wouldn't say that if a program doesn't have co-op, it's not a good program. So like we said, it's really about understanding what are the goals that you're looking to do with your academics and your education, and co-op isn't going to be practical for every degree program. Really, I think to say is across the board here, the level of education in Canada is quite high. People from all around the world do come and study. All of our universities are, they're publicly funded. There's a high level of learning that you're going to get from your program, and it's really about finding the program that's kind of best fit for you. And if you are really looking for a program that's going to give you a work opportunity like co-op, then absolutely you should select that. But there's a lot of things that you can do during your degree that will help set you up for your career. I never participated in co-op. I focused on doing international exchanges. So I was able to do a semester in Spain, a semester in Singapore, spent 6 weeks in rural Bangladesh through a different type of program. And those experiences helped shape me for what I wanted to do career-wise. So, just because I didn't do co-op, I still think it turned out okay. Patty knows me well. He might disagree. I don't know. But like I said, it's really about finding your opportunities and the best way to support yourself with your degree.
Yes, Shreya, go ahead, please. We can't hear you. You need to unmute yourself, please.
Can you hear me now? So just to add up on that, co-op, when we talk about co-op, is basically cooperative education. So hence, what everyone has explained is like it being a part of your learning experience. I think sometimes students do also get confused between a co-op and an internship. So I think the one way to kind of differentiate that also is that a co-op will always be paid and it will be a full-time job. It will be in your area of study or in your faculty of study. An internship can be paid, cannot be paid, will be part-time, could be full-time. So all of those things are a good way to figure out if you're doing a co-op or an internship, which could be a differentiating factor. So I think that's important to keep in mind because all programs might not offer a co-op, but they might be offering a mandatory internship, which is embedded in the program. So those are things for you to understand. At the end of the day, whenever a university is offering either a co-op or an internship in the program, the idea is to help you get more experience on field for that program, and that is something all of the universities within Canada try, depending on the program and from university to university, and that's how they map out their curriculum in terms of the experience that you should have for that program. So I think Ashley said it rightly. It's not about does the program have a co-op. It is important to first see the program, and if it's fulfilling your requirements, then you can look for it in terms of co-op or an internship. Don't pick a university or a program on the basis of it having a co-op or not, because that is not going to, it is a work experience about, it's not you're not learning your curriculum through it entirely. So you need to first still give priority to the program, and then you can kind of figure the rest out around it.
So, okay, I think we'll have time for last question. Does completing a bachelor's degree hold more advantage than a diploma or an associate degree at the undergrad level? And what are the advantages of doing a 2 or 3 year diploma over a bachelor's degree?
Okay, so I can start, and I'll tell this from my personal experience of having studied as an international student, doing an undergraduate degree and a master's degree as studying abroad. And this was many years ago when I went to university. And I think the experience of doing a bachelor's gives you a lot of time. Firstly, when you're going from another country, you are learning, the reins of the curriculum, and the study methodology for each country is different. So you have the time to adapt yourself better, to understand how the teaching patterns are different from each country to country. The second thing is your learning experience and exposure, you have more time for that. So like Dylan spoke about having the study abroad experiences, being able to do a lot of student related activities in terms of networking and building your experience gives you, undergraduate degrees will always give you that exposure because you have the time to do so. When you're going for a master's program directly, depending on the program, it could be a year or it could just be 2 years. And at that time, you are more in the race of finding a job, and you just need to and then there's a lot on your plate. You need to maintain your GPA, you need to keep up with everything. You're figuring life on the go. So it becomes sometimes a little challenging when you're, having to figure everything out. So in my personal experience, I just feel like an undergraduate degree gives you a little bit more room to breathe, where you can plan more easily. You're getting and you're becoming a part of the university, the community, the country a little bit well, and have more exposure, become more independent early on. So you value everything that's coming to you, and you're learning much more through that.
I think
Just
the only
to
thing I
add
just
to
like
that-
to,
Sorry. I was just going to interject just for a moment. Just to add to that, it also depends on what your career aspirations are. Sometimes students have this misconception that university is superior to college. And that's not necessarily the case. University teaches a lot of theory and how to think outside the box, whereas college might teach more practical, hands-on applications to what you're learning. So, for example, students will ask me about becoming a commercial pilot. And I'll say, well, we do have aerospace. Yes, you can pursue that, but that's the design of aircrafts. It's not going to teach you how to fly them. If you want to fly an airplane, you go to college for that. And sometimes students get a very despondent look on their face. I don't want to go to college. It's inferior to university. It really isn't. You're going to be job ready after you get a 2-year or 3-year aviation diploma out of college. You don't want to get into an airplane if the pilot theoretically knows how to fly, do you? No, you don't. So it really depends on the application of what you want for your career and whether university is a better fit or whether college is a better fit.
Absolutely. Andy's covered exactly what I was going to say. I think it really depends on the type of career that you're looking for and then programming. And this echoes back, even to Ashley's point from earlier in the webinar about the importance of doing research and understanding what is your longer term plan that you have for yourself, and then what's the best way to get there. There's wonderful colleges in Canada offer really kind of unique specialized programs that can really help you get to where you want to go, and that might be the right fit. Or as Andy said, maybe you're looking for more a longer theoretical degree, or as Shreya said, a bachelor's degree. It really kind of depends on where you see yourself going, and then what's the most appropriate avenue to get you there. And it can be a lot to figure out. And this is where, organizations like Canam with a lot of experience here can be really reputable to help you discuss, really what it is that you're looking to get. And of their many partners they work with, who are some of the institutions you should consider that can help get you there.
Thank you. And to conclude, our expert panel from across the globe have just explained how international education is an amazing opportunity at the undergrad level, and especially during the current changing times, how students can still pursue their education abroad. The earlier you enter the global scene, the easier it is for you to adapt and get employed. Now, what they said today is loud and clear. Don't put yourself in a box, explore and learn. Canadian education system offers a huge variety of credentials at the undergrad level, like diplomas, associate degrees, university transfer programs, commonly referred to as pathways, 3- and 4-year bachelor's degrees, and so on. So meet Canam counselors to assess your profile and suggest the most suitable options to you. A million thanks today to our expert panel, as they help clear a lot of doubts in the young minds and the parents all ready to plan their careers. Now, audience, your individual profile related questions will certainly be answered by our counselors within the next 2 days if you've given us your WhatsApp number and the city that you're located in. Now, we urge you to register on www.canamgroup.com for all the other following sessions today. We have 2 more sessions coming up, and you can attend. The next relevant topic is, of course, how to choose an agent guide to you with your Canadian career objectives. So thank you all.
Thank you
and
so
have
much.
a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Very much.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, Ganga.
Thanks all. Thank you.